Welcome back to part 2 of daily number 649, where allegedly we're learning to do this. Be a better gamer, my fellow nerds. In part 1, we essentially saw the setup from each player's point of view, because there's little details that are going on that are fun to highlight, but for the most part, they've gotten where we normally get in the matchup. 3 bases for both, good amount of tech started, and especially those double ups. So let's go ahead and hop into the mid game. But first, I want to give a shout out to Toby Wan, who gave a little tweet and could possibly still be watching. Thank you, Toby. Hi, Toby. Hello. Definitely check him out. I don't know what Toby's Twitch is. Is it twitch.tv/TobyWanDota? If anyone knows, I'll plug it here. It will be plugged here. Alright, cool. Alright, so Polt's doing the usual business, just trying to deny creep spread. With so many queens, Byul is going to be battling back. Toby Wan Kenobi. For any of you who do not know him, he is the infamous and incredible Dota 2 commentator who can't not shout cast for 15 hours in a row. Every time I've seen him do a casting bender, it's insane. Like non-stop solo casting madness for like a century. Alright, here we go. Here we go. Back to the game. So, in usual Terran lore, until we have combat shield, we can't really make a lot of big attacks. But Polt's sort of fine with that. And this is another move that I've seen out of Polt that I like quite a bit. Because he tends to have delayed upgrades, because he did more cutesy stuff at the start, we see a lot of bunker extensions up to the primary chokes. This happens on pretty much all maps that we see him play on, and the more vulnerable the base, the more bunkers he'll build. I mean, like, if this choke were much higher up, like here, he would just build like 5 or 6 bunkers in this space. Does that on Belshire Vestige as well. Great. So little moves from Byul is getting the opportunity to do some nice things with some of the vision he's carved out for himself. Taking these towers, doing these little teensy counterattacks that can potentially be annoying. A really clutch block from Polt. Overseers, chilling at home. Again, that speed is so important for dealing with the mines. But Polt is kind of surprisingly far back on the map. Most players are really not that. They're really not that withdrawn. But of course, usual 4th base makes more sense for Zerg to be taking this as a 4th base, just because of the flying units. This distance we can actually count, whereas Terran can't count that. Terran has this distance to the 4th, so Terran doesn't really have a good 4th on this map. And what I like about Polt is Polt says, okay, hard for me to get a 4th, no big deal. I am going to use that early troop. I mean, this isn't even a big push yet from Polt. He has his army split up. He's carving out vision for himself. That Viking is still active. What a legend. But these early forces are setting up his later aggression. He's killing off these debris so that way he has a straight path. Oops, sorry. This way he has a straight path up to this base. What was I going to say? Sorry, I got like totally, unbelievably distracted for a moment there. Alright, cool, we're back. So yeah, he sets himself up for a really nice attack path here. To be able to take down this base here. And then set himself up to take this expansion. So great, he's got himself doing some really nice setups. Some really, really excellent setup stuffs. Now, Byul, on the other side of things, is I would call this like mid-game rounding out. There's this like race that Byul is going to be going for in this position, where he's setting himself up for defense to stay alive. All right, cool. This is very common for a player who's, well, up against one of the more aggressive mine medevacing players out there. But the big race is to get up the hive tech, to do something useful, to do something notable. Like Ultralisks, Broodlords, something that will close out the game. Anything like that is good. We can't stay on layer tech forever because of the 3/3 upgrades for Terran. So we're constantly trying to find a window to just level up to the hive. But at the same time, we can't throw down our infestation pit too early because that's going to eat into a huge amount of our gas. It's 100 for the infestation pit, which doesn't seem like that much, but then it's 150 for the hive. And then once we've done that, it's even more gas to be throwing down, say 3/3 upgrades. I mean, it looks as though BL would want to have that hive already, but when we come back and look at the existing numbers, it's like 9 mutas, 14 banelings. I mean, a hell of a lot of Zerglings for BL. But not that many mutas, and that's the really important part. BL truly needs to have this expansion mining gas for a little bit before he can even afford the hive. So he's racing to stay ahead of Polt's 3/3 upgrades. That's the big race that we like to talk about. So BL, given that he has a low number of Mutalisks, can't really afford to move out. He can't exactly afford to be pressuring and, you know, like even really poking and prodding here. He kind of needs to stay withdrawn back. Because Byul's doing this really cool general play where he starts devoting a lot more gas to banelings early. The only time in which I think that this is okay is if Terran is really late on upgrades. That's the only time. The rest of the time, I very, very, very strongly believe you need to get to like 20 mutas super duper fast. Like freaking need. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't finish the thought. Whoa, did I space out there. Okay, so the reason you need that many mutas there is because you need those tools to pick off the, like the super aggressive Marine medevac type push stuffs. Like, his Marines, I'm trying to think of a way to explain something that's like inherently about numbers. I'm trying to explain it qualitatively. Like, how do I want to say that? If he's delayed on, or given that Polt did some of this cutesy little attacking stuff and his pushes are delayed, Polt is not really prepared to do a huge shove at the front. He's generally going to be doing or huge shove at the front plus like these weird little multi-pronged drops. That's really what a player who has gotten to 2/2 and gotten all their upgrades, that's what they're about. Is this just like really aggressive drilling and moving over to all sides? So the fact that Terran is kind of dictating where the battle is, you need Mutalisks to be able to go toe-to-toe with that. Until Terran hits that position, it's okay not to have the Mutalisks. But if he is rushing up to get, or once he is at this part where he's really powered up, that's where you really need the mutas. So we're seeing BL sort of get the mutas at this point. If Polt had much faster 2/2 and was not messing around and was attacking much more aggressively, BL would probably die right now, even with all these ling banelings here along the side. So a good time to go for the infestation pit is, if your 4th base is up, throw it down around 15 minutes. We saw Jaedong do this. Little bits of overlords moving in. Or excuse me, little bits of Zerglings with the Overseer moving in to use banelings to pick off the mines. But now we're really starting to see why the mutas are coming into effect now. They're a good way to chew through this force rapidly. But it's these flanks that Byul sets up for himself that I think are so smart. Polt has established this line as his path of aggression. So long before anything even got underway, look at the setup that Byul provided himself. 2 angles on the approach. Cool. Alright. There's a little droppage that's going on, but this is why it's very common to have this sort of setup. And there's just a couple things about the defense that I really like for Byul. The spore crawlers, typically we see spore crawlers planted here and here and here to sort of prevent the medevacs from ever dropping. I think this positioning is much, 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 much better. For one, it's closer together. I mean, the distance from here to here doesn't seem like a lot, but in terms of a Zerg army running every which way, every little bit counts. Also, this is more cleanly tucked away. It's easy for Polt to be tempted to drop here while he's taking damage, and it's almost impossible to shoot it from the low ground. And it's less surface area to cover. Notice that 2 spore crawlers tucked together can cover the same plateau, whereas otherwise you need like 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4. So good defense on that backside, so Byul can crush Polt on the front side. I'm going more slowly in this daily than I thought I would. Oh well. That's fine. So we see some really cool stuff. Byul just being really responsible about throwing down these spine crawlers. This didn't used to be a norm thing. Players used to get to around 80, 82 drones and then just halt. Byul is continuing to build drones. Look at that, 3 more coming in. And he's going to continue to add in lots of spine crawlers. Burrow allows him to do this. Burrow is the offensive tool for Terran. Oh, wow. Wow, did I say that wrong? Burrow is the offensive tool for Zerg. It feels like a defensive tool, right? It's very hard to attack with things that are burrowed under the ground and are immobile, but it's an enabler. If we have Burrow, we can begin doing counterattacks, and this sequence is going to showcase what we're talking about. Oops. So the attack's just been held off. Spines in a really good location. If I can select all these things, you see that the rally points all headed up there. Where is every single hatch rallied to a different location? I've never seen that before. Wow. Wow, well, never mind. I guess I'm just pausing at the weird time. Look, all the drones are rallied there. But look, every single one of these is rallied to an odd spot. I did not even know that before. Alright, well, whatever. That point's not going to be made. But anyways, we've held off this push. Vision looking good, thanks to our insane creep spread with all those early dudes getting added up on up. And the fact that this is here, when we're doing this attack, we're going to see the way that Polt sort of reacts to it. Polt has spotters here. Polt's vision is going to be to collect all this stuff together, and he's going to be spending a lot of time scanning in these regions, scanning here, checking out every which way. We're starting to see a lot of command centers from Polt come down. This is sort of a post-late game setup where Polt is going to planetary fortress to control this here, and hopefully he will have killed this off by now. That's the general flow that we see Polt do. But the fact is, Byul has much higher percentage baneling bursts because Polt is going to have to spend scans and attention on this counterattack force. And this is where Byul begins to get a lot of value. We see a little bit of a later hive. Kind of, you know, an ever so slight whiff. But the existence of these spines with just a couple of banelings start to enable Byul to actually do these aggressive move-outs. And the muta count tends to stay pretty low, 20 to 26-ish. And spines, weirdly, are bad in mid game and strong again in late game. I used to just be like, oh dude, no, you don't make spines once you hit mid game, because you know he just runs up with a bunch of stim marines and spines do like almost no damage to them. I mean, I know they do like 25 damage a poke in the head, but like they shoot so slow, and it's just a marine. It's gonna take 3 hits to kill a marine. That's slow. It's my spine crawler. And you're gonna have like 18 marines target firing it, and it'll die immediately. So I used to just think, oh, this is terrible. But what's clever is that in these late game scenarios, Terrans pre-split up their armies. This is a classic Terran late game split. The mines are sort of peppered in between. The marines and marauders split up to avoid big baneling collisions and also to coordinate with the mines, which means that in the late game, spine crawlers have fewer things shooting at them, so they become good again. Is that not fucked up? There goes the spine crawler. Halloween, just attach a dongle to my head. It was really good. Alright, nice. So that's one of the weirdest innovations that I like a lot. So we're seeing a lot more attacks here. So normally when Polt does this style of play, where he's drilling so hard, one of two things happening. The Zerg is dying so badly, is just getting thundermauled so violently that he has to spend his entire focus here. Or in particular, has to spend his entire focus here. So Polt can get away with an expansion all the way at the opposite end. He's protecting it by virtue of the fact that Zerg has to be up here. And then Polt can pull back and center, and he's in okay shape. This, in general, is kind of a vulnerable expansion because of... Oops, sorry, I don't have my mouse in the right place. I actually had my mouse cursor over the encoder instead of on the screen. But yeah, this path better defends this expansion. But it's very easy to fall into this habit, and Byul is going to exploit that. So in other words, I think that this is a mistake by Polt. Byul doesn't have a ton of mutalisks. It's 20. But it's plenty to be able to take this out. Because with 5 spines up here, this is not a good engagement angle. Byul still has good vision, more lings and banelings, and is just expanding all the way down to the opposite side. This is very cool. This is a sort of space-contained Zerg, thanks to having a whole bunch of spine crawlers up at this expansion. Burrow is a big boon as well. So Polt pretty naturally is going to have to split his forces up. You can't have a big attack coming in along this line and just let this die. So it's a nice easy benefit for Byul in this circumstance to just tech up. This is the scary moment in the Zerg game when the Zerg is wondering how long of a window do I have to just do things until 3-3 is done. So establishing this expansion, establishing a 5th base before 3-3, really useful. Rarely do you get that opportunity because normally players upgrade faster than Polt. But look at just these little tiny moves, sending in some Ling Baneling and taking some opportunities to shoot at the command center. These are just little gains. Harassment happens in an unusually big way in StarCraft. You need kind of a lot of stuff to harass, because normally everything is so tightly bunched up. So really late in the game, as we're seeing Byul split himself all across this map, and as he's effectively secured this with the ridiculous number of spine crawlers, Byul does another very odd move. Builds a ton of mutalisks. And he's still injecting like crazy. He's got 32 larvae to flood with lings, so we can get 74 on a dime. Excuse me, 64 on a dime. The big things that he needs to upgrade now that his hive's done is just 3-3 and adrenal glands. And adrenal glands, damn it. But Byul is still doing this big harassment-oriented play. Oh yeah, look at that. There's the adrenal glands. So the harass force for Byul centers around having a lot of banelings to pick off turrets and other assorted pastries so that this giganto flock of mutalisks can come in. And I was talking about, 20 or so being a nice round number, 20 to 26. Still, 30 is reasonable enough of a number. Getting much beyond that to like 50 is kind of bad. And it's pretty easy to see because you just select your mutalisks and a full set of 3 is 24. And if there's anything beyond that, then okay, cool. He's, it's pretty easy counting, but I figured, yeah, like this, it's like, alright, it's a little over 24. Nice, I can use some more. So yeah, upgrades, upgrades, upgrades. This force, this kind of half defensive force with all these spines, now can sort of rejoin. And suddenly we see Byul at a tremendous advantage. Really sort of atypical looking game. This expansion is bound to die. It is not in good shape, but that's okay. In the small number war, we win. 4 versus 3 is a lot better of a position to be in than 5v4. Because of percentages. So then Byul does the usual bookkeeping, which normally can be hard to remember, but it's pretty easy on most maps, because you just say, where has he been attacking me? Where does he want to be attacking me? And you just look, and you just go there with overseers, and you see stuff. So lovely. Now, I would normally say that a player needs to be building a lot fewer banelings. Damn it. A player would normally be building a lot fewer mutalisks in this late game scenario, and would be building a lot more. Let's say this one more time. You would traditionally expect the Zerg to be de-emphasizing mutas and emphasizing banelings as he gets to hive. Why? Why would you expect that? Let me tell you. You would say, well, I don't want to be adding on more mutalisks because I need to do some hive tech. I need to get some infestors up. I need to get some ultras up. I need to get the ultra chitinous plating and all those things. So I'm going to stop on the mutas. But I got to build some banelings because I need my crowd control. That's what we normally think. But we're seeing Byul not get any other hive tech, which is so cool. And it's all because of this expansion setup. I mean, you just look at this, and I mean, just 4 bases versus 3 bases. Most people would be going for Ultra, and we'd see that this force would slowly begin to break through. But because this map is big enough, it's more important to be gaining more expansions and controlling the Terran in terms of expo count than it is to be engaging in these big direct battles. I mean, for instance, if you had a map that was much smaller, like imagine if all these Zerg bases were moved closer to something like this. Almost anywhere Terran attacks is an immediate threat to all the other bases. But here, I mean, look at this. Terran's going to hit this, and every one of these bases on top is fine. Absolutely fine. The bigness of the map is what is permitting our player Byul to pull this off. So when we come back, we're going to get to this wonderful conclusion of this awesome game. And we'll see more stuff about the sort of cool map, cool control of the map based on the size. And there's 3 things I want you just to be reflecting on. Is how Mutalisk counterattacks will be working, Burrow, and the Spine Crawlers to help our Zergy stay alive.